Hello there, this is Your Money, your weekly guide to making the most of your cash, here every weekend on BBC News Television. Available all week on the BBC iPlayer as well. Now, if you're struggling with managing your bills and debt, reviewing your finances and a bit of financial education could help you keep a better grip on those purse strings. And more people are buying a new home off plan. While there are benefits, there are also risks. And you could wash all your dirty laundry for free on a Saturday if you have a smart reader. A very warm welcome to you. Now, more than half of UK adults are struggling to keep up with their bills and debt repayments. The research by the Money Advice Service suggests that fewer people are planning ahead and putting money aside for emergencies. However, the same study also found that while many are struggling to make it from one payday to the next, many are developing more positive attitudes towards their cash. Well, Jane Symonds is from the Money Advice Service and she joins me now. Hello to you, Jane.
Hello.
So while more of us, according to your survey, are struggling financially on a daily basis, it appears that perhaps as a result we're becoming more vigilant and keeping a much closer eye on our cash.
Of course, we all develop coping mechanisms when we're stretched, and in fact half of us say that it's just a struggle to get to the end of the month or to the next payday or whenever you've got next income coming in. So we've developed these mechanisms to help us find our way there.
But your report still highlights that a rather high worrying number of us are still struggling with our financial IQs. Apparently 16% of adults questioned couldn't recognise a balance on their statement. That's concerning.
It is concerning, and that's what we're here for, to help people find out how to better increase their financial capability and their understanding of how to manage their money.
And why is it that you think we have this sort of gap in our knowledge? Is it because at school, at university, for example, we're not explicitly taught how to manage our personal finances, or are people put off by the jargon?
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. I mean, there is research out there that says we are getting better. We are getting better at coping and we are getting better at managing our money. But it is against, obviously, an economic downturn where people have been struggling.
And what are the key things that you would say we need to keep on top of in order to keep our houses in order, our financial houses in order, if you like?
Well, I think start with the here and now. If a lot of us are struggling to get to the end of the month or the week, look at that first and then look at little ways to cut back. I mean, we say if you save £3 a day, so that might be a coffee or taking in your own lunches, at the end of the year, that's over £1,000. So start little, get bigger, and then look at the overall financial picture about whether you have your contents insurance, your pensions, but deal with the here and now first.
And there's going to be a lot of parents and grandparents out there watching today wondering what can they do to better educate their children as to how to handle their money from an early age. We live in an age of debit and credit cards, so a lot of children out there will grow up never actually seeing physical cash change hands.
Well, it's the same thing that we did when we were younger, maybe playing shops or teaching people about their money in an everyday, ordinary basis. When you've got children who are a little older, showing them how to read a bank statement, for example, that's always a good way to start. But, just the normal things of sharing and communicating.
That new game, let's read the bank statement together. It could catch on. James,
I'm not quite sure.
Jane Symonds from the Money Advice Service, many thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, would you buy a house or a flat without actually seeing it first? Well, thousands of people looking for a new home are doing exactly that. They're buying off-plan, a trend last seen at the height of the property boom before 2007. Well, buyers agree the price, but then have to wait up to a year until the home is finished. Well, some developers report that off-plan sales now account for half the new homes they're selling. As Brian Milligan reports, while there are advantages to buying off-plan, there are also some serious financial risks.
Even though the builders still have some way to go on this block of flats, 70% of the properties here have already been sold off-plan. Such is the rush to buy in some parts of the country, none of the purchasers even waited to see the show flat before putting down their deposits.
When people buy off-plan, in other words, from architects' designs, they typically agree the price and then put down a 10% deposit. In effect, they're betting that the value of the property will go up by the time the flat is actually built. But that's a model that can carry big financial risks.
So what will the view be like out of these windows here?
But Alex Howarth, who's buying a property off-plan in Oxfordshire, isn't worried. She's convinced prices here can only go up. She's made frequent visits to watch her new home being built, and she and her partner have even been able to influence the interior design.
We were able to pick the kitchen, the bathroom, the floors and some of the tiles for the bathroom as well. So it meant that we were able to put our own stamp on the property and made it really, hopefully it'll make it a lot more ours.
But there are serious risks to buying off-plan. If the value of the property falls while it's being built, or if you lose your job, for example, your lender could withdraw a mortgage offer, costing you hundreds of thousands of pounds.
You not only lose your deposit, but the developer could sue you for the loss in value as well. So you can lose a lot of money and have the stress of a legal case.
Buying off-plan was last in vogue before 2007, when many people thought prices could never lose their gloss. In some places, half of all new homes being built are now sold off-plan.
I think we're seeing levels of activity going back to those sort of heights, but I don't think we're quite at those numbers that were at 2007, for example. So no, I think we're seeing some positive activity.
Rising house prices are not positive activity for anyone trying to buy a home, of course. And before buying off-plan, the advice is to get legal help and think about it carefully. Brian Milligan, BBC News.
Well, let's stick with housing now, because UK house prices recorded their biggest year-on-year increase for nearly 3 years in July, according to the Nationwide Building Society. It said annual price growth hit 3.9%, which means the average home now costs £170,825. Average prices rose by 0.8% compared with June, with the Building Society describing the increase as robust. However, it said that housing remained in relatively short supply as rental costs were still rising. A fuel discount that applies to the Scottish Islands and the Isles of Scilly could be extended to remote and rural parts of the UK mainland. The scheme, which was introduced last year, gives motorists a maximum 5p discount on the price of petrol and diesel because the cost of transporting fuel there makes it more expensive. The UK government is now looking at petrol and diesel prices in 36 areas in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. A group of disabled people have lost a court challenge against cuts in social housing benefits for residents with spare bedrooms in England, Wales and Scotland. The High Court said the policy, dubbed a bedroom tax by critics, was not unlawfully discriminatory, but it criticised the government for failing to follow a 2012 ruling that said housing benefits should not be cut where disabled children were involved. The group have said that they will appeal. Now, I've got a question for you. Free electricity, anyone? Well, British Gas has said that it's planning to do just that for some of its customers on Saturdays. Well, the move is to balance demands on the power grid. The energy firm plans to trial the initiative and could make it available to customers by mid-2014. Well, the tariff would only be available to those in the UK who have a smart meter. That's a device that automatically sends readings to British Gas. Well, Anne Robinson is from the price comparison website USwitch, and she joins me now. And it almost sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Talk me through this trial plan for free electricities on Saturdays.
Well, it isn't too good to be true. It's actually happening. And as you rightly said, this is a trial. They're also trialling something in Newcastle as well, which is an evening offer, where at peak times during the evening you get cheaper electricity and some of it free. But the whole idea is that smart meters, they are coming, thank goodness. I've been waiting for them for a long, long time. And smart meters actually make a lot of sense. First of all, as a customer, isn't it wonderful? No more estimated bills, absolutely accurate bills all the time, so we can have that sort of peace of mind. But the big thing about smart meters is it takes a lot of cost out of the system. You don't have meter reading, you don't have quite a few things. And also, as you rightly say, power is cheaper during certain times of the day. So it's a very good idea.
Can you see any downsides to these smart meters?
I can't see any downside whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, it's win for us, it's win for the companies who will be taking some costs out, and it's also a big win for saving the planet. Because if there's a good take-up over the next 4 or 5 years of smart meters, we might find ourselves saving ourselves, say, a couple of power stations. And I think that's good news.
OK, so how do people out there watching get a smart meter?
I think if you're interested in a smart meter, I think all of us should be interested in smart meters. Right now, British Gas is way ahead of the game. I would simply get in touch with British Gas and ask them what the possibilities are for you getting a smart meter, and maybe you'll get one, and maybe then you'll be able to take advantage of some of these good new tariffs which will come in next year.
I do know that the plan is for every household to have a smart meter by the end of the decade, but let's go back to these new schemes and these new tariffs that are being discussed.
Yes.
This free Saturday trial plan, for example, sounds like a brilliant idea, but surely it's only really available to families who are able to very strictly timetable their electricity usage, and also if you cook with gas, it's not going to be much help.
No, you're right. If you cook with gas, it won't help you at all. But just think about it for a minute. A lot of us work during the week. A lot of us have to do a lot of household chores. What about sort of instead of washing a couple of times a week, we save all our washing till Saturday? What about if you still bake? I don't, I'm useless at it. But for those of you who still bake, what about doing the weekly bake on a Saturday? Or what about in the winter time? You know, preparing some of those casseroles so that when you come in from work, all you have to do is heat them up. There's lots we can do. And the whole thing about British Gas doing these trials is they want to understand how they will impact on our behaviours. And as a result of seeing how we behave by having these various trials, come up with a great tariff which will help us.
OK, Anne, we're going to have to leave it there. People having to get more organised on their Saturdays now by the sounds of it. Anne Robertson there from the comparison website NewSwitch. Many thanks. Well, that's all from Your Money this week. Don't forget the Your Money pages on the BBC's business website. It's bbc.co.uk/business. Click on the words Your Money near the top of the page. And you can also get updates by following our feed on Twitter if you like. We're at BBC Your Money. We're back next week as usual. Bye for now.